Hey.
Alright, so to be honest, I really wanted to get a video out today, but I wasn't sure what quite to make it about, so I went scourging through the internet looking for some NBA rumors or just anything NBA related to talk about. Came across this article on Bleacher Report that is detailing a bunch of bold NBA offseason predictions, so I thought I'll react and rate them. Now, this article was written by Dan Favale. To be honest, I'm not too sure how to pronounce his last name. I don't want to butcher it, so I'm just going to call him Dan from here on out for the rest of the video. But he made a good point that, he knows bold takes have a bad rep in today's sports media world. So he claims he really tried his best to go and make some, hot takes, but that are still realistic and wouldn't absolutely catch people off guard if they were to actually happen. And after reading through them, I agree. I think these are all pretty reasonable hot takes and bold predictions. So we got 5 that we're going to be talking about in this video, and let's get right into the first one. Now, I actually full on agree with this take. I made a video just a little bit ago where I detailed a little bit more deeply into what exactly the Malcolm Brogdon trade offer means for the Philadelphia 76ers, and Dan pretty much hits the same points. After the most recent playoffs, Ben Simmons' trade value is at an all-time low, and just to reiterate, for the Sixers to still be getting offers of players like Malcolm Brogdon, who are borderline all-star worthy talents, then Philadelphia has to be feeling pretty good about their current situation with Ben Simmons, because right now it's very easy to point out his weaknesses on the court and off the court, with that being his offense, his just lack of a jump shot, not wanting to take a jump shot. I know some people have poked at his contract for it being way too much for a player that's, has his offensive game. But whenever discussing any player in the NBA, it's important that you also point out their strengths, because Ben Simmons is still one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. He's a great playmaker, has great size, can defend 1 through 5 on the basketball court, and just ultimately does so many things that can help you win games that you just have to look past the negatives at some points. So again, I completely agree with this take, and I've been saying this since the Brogdon offer was declined by the Sixers, but to me that was the final say in my understanding that the Sixers most likely are not trading Simmons this offseason unless they, get a really good haul or offer for him. Overall, I give this take a Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year award out of a trust the process. Now this take, I understand why he put it in there, but I don't think under the current circumstances of both scenarios, I just don't think this one's gonna happen. And let's start with Bradley Beal and the Wizards. So obviously Washington is pushing for contention, yet they're still pretty far away. Unless some, rapid rebuild happens, that's very unlikely. Bradley Beal is going to have a choice to make in a year's time where he's going to have a player option that he's going to have to make a decision about. And unfortunately for the Wizards, I think they're going to get caught up in this race to win as many games as possible and try to do whatever it takes to win those games. They're going to be a slightly above 500 team heading towards the deadline. They're not going to feel pressured at all to trade Bradley Beal before his upcoming free agency. And then they're just eventually going to get knocked out in the first round again. Offseason's going to come and Bradley Beal is going to be gone for nothing in return. But the scenario could get interesting if they decide to trade Russell Westbrook this offseason to, let's say, the Lakers, because that's a totally realistic scenario. But at that point, if Westbrook's on the team, then I'd find it a lot more realistic that the Wizards will then go out and trade Bradley Beal to go for a full rebuild with some of their younger players coming to the forefront of the franchise. Then when it comes to Zach LaVine and the Bulls, that scenario is a lot more cut and dry. LaVine is in a similar situation to Brad Beal, where he's heading into the final year of his contract, and the Bulls, like the Wizards, are just kind of stuck in that NBA purgatory state. Now, Dan mentions in the article that the Bulls front office absolutely cannot let this Vucevic trade that they did last trade deadline affect and cloud their judgment on what to do with Zach LaVine, but it probably will. That's just the kind of stuff that happens in the NBA. Because if the Bulls do go ahead and trade Zach LaVine just 1 year after trading for Nikola Vucevic and giving up a good amount of assets to get that trade done, there will just be absolute mayhem in Chicago. So even if it might seem like a really good basketball move to go out and trade Zach LaVine before he has a chance to leave in free agency or nothing, I will be shocked, honestly. I will be very, very surprised if the Bulls have the balls to go out and trade Zach LaVine again 1 year after trying to get him another piece to go win with. So yeah, official rating for this one is a Russell Westbrook triple-double out of Vooch. So for this bold prediction, it's no secret that there is a market discrepancy in the current state of the NBA. It's just a fact that certain franchises have it way more difficult than other franchises when it comes to either signing big name free agents or making big blockbuster trades in order to acquire great talent. But Dan points out that in the recent seasons, we've now seen the 2021 Phoenix Suns and the 2019 Raptors both make big trades to get a superstar level talent on their team that would eventually help them get to at least the NBA Finals. But results aside, it potentially could set up a precedent for other smaller market teams to follow in their footsteps and go out and take some more risks. And while I like this take, I just don't quite wholeheartedly agree with it, but it might not be for the reason that you're thinking. Dan goes on to list a whole bunch of teams that could easily fit the description this season, and those are the Hawks, Pelicans, Grizzlies, T-Wolves, Kings, and Thunder. Most of these teams definitely have the assets to get a blockbuster trade done, but the issue comes in that who are they going to be trading for? Because as of now, there are just not many superstars or even just star level talents in the league who are one, available, or two, good enough to truly swing one of these teams to be a true contender. The only one that really fits the description is Damian Lillard, but even him and the Blazers seem to be trying to work out the scenario in Portland, so who even knows if he's available? The only other players who even remotely come to mind for me are Karl Anthony Towns, Brad Beal, and Kyle Lowry, but again, even those I think are highly unlikely. Overall, this take gets a Zaza Pachulia out of a Golden Snitch P3. So while I don't agree with this one, I do think there is still an avenue for it to happen, so I'm a little 50-50 on here. So it's been reported that Kawhi is going to opt out of his player option for this next season and just ultimately sign a new fresh deal, most likely with the LA Clippers. But outside of that, the rest of this free agency class is not exactly top heavy. Dan points out how John Collins, who's a restricted free agent, is somehow the second most likely option to receive a 4-year max contract, which, when you look at the grand scheme of things, is a little sad for an NBA free agency. But even John Collins, a solid player he is, I highly doubt and would be very, very much surprised if he gets a max contract. I mean, could it happen? Yeah, but again, I think it's just really unlikely. And look at the rest of this free agency class, the only other player, if you had to put me on the spot and name one guy who I think gets max money, I think the only answer that makes sense is Kyle Lowry, really. But even in his case, it would only be a 2-year deal and not a 4-year max deal, which I don't know if that counts or not, but we'll just, we'll keep going. Overall, I'm giving this bold prediction a 2016 Chandler Parsons out of a 2016 Nikola Batum, just because of the absolute wasteland and free agency. So if you know, you know. And then the final bold prediction, I agree and I am totally here to see it happen. The Raptors currently have a whole lot of moving parts to figure out before they even get to the regular season. It's still unsure if their president of basketball operations, Masai Ujiri, will actually be returning for next season, as him and Kyle Lowry are both currently free agents who are free to roam and go anywhere they want. They're also in the process of still trying to move back to Toronto from Tampa Bay after just an absolutely horrendous 2020 season. But if you look past all of that, they still have a really, really competent roster with a good amount of talent on it and one of the better head coaches in the league in Nick Nurse, so they definitely still have plenty of tools there. And not to mention, they have the number 4 overall pick in the upcoming draft, which is a good asset for trades or just even roster development in itself. So with all of this combined, like the article says, they're in a really good position, a really weird position, in that they can take that number 4 pick and some of their assets and go out and make a big splash trade, or they could just trade off one of their current players like a Siakam or a Fred VanVleet and then just, draft with the 4th overall pick and go for a rebuild. Either way, I've always been a fan of this new age Toronto Raptors team because even though they did not have a great record at all last year, they were still a pretty good team and were in a whole lot of games. They just had a whole lot of injuries that they had to deal with throughout the season and a whole lot of just really weird outside scenario factors. So whether they go for the title or go for a rebuild, I'm fine either way, as long as they do at least one of those two options. I think Masai Ujiri, if he does come back, will go down one of those two paths, and that's exciting for a team to see them either go all in or all out, because stuff happens, trades happens, that's the cool stuff of the NBA is when we get to analyze new rosters and come up with new schemes, and I get, at the end of the day, I am totally okay with the Raptors just being a fun, interesting franchise to follow. But overall, this final bold prediction gets a Pascal Siakam game winner out of a Frederico.